So I'm Donna Dillenberger, and I'm an IBM fellow at the IBM Watson Research Center, and I've worked with many universities on AI projects as well as commercial customers. I develop AI models and the systems to run them. So this graph shows that the world is running out of real data, and we need real data to be able to train models. And over here, you see that we're 2025, and we're going to run out of real data, sometime around 2030. And what will happen then? So then there's a prediction that, right now, 10% of the data on the internet is created using Gen AI, AI technology. But by 2030, 90 to 99% of the data will be created with Gen AI technologies. So similar to what Jeff said at the prior presentation, how is this going to affect society? Because we know that students right now, they when they do a search, an AI summary comes up first, and whereas we, some of us, got our degrees even before the internet. We were used to looking at sources, books, going to original source materials, and then when the internet came, we at least had links to go back to. But if 99% of the data is going to be created with the help of Gen AI technologies, what does that mean? So in the past, mass information was controlled by a few newspapers, a handful of TV channels, and publishing houses. And today, 50% of the social media that's out there is generated by bots. And 2030, 90% of the data is going to be created by Gen AI models. So the good thing about this is more humans can create bots. So this kind of democratizes who puts out mass information. But the con is reality being skewed? Because mass culture is going to be generated by those companies and people that know how to create bots and that knows how to use AI. So what does this mean for humanity? And so throughout my presentation, I'll be suggesting university projects if you'd like to collaborate on this. So one is studies on information virus trends. So a lot of us, as professors, we grew up during this time where information was curated to the public by a handful of powerful human beings, those that controlled the networks and the newspapers. And now the information is being controlled by really bots, and bots are generated by companies, by governments, by organizations. Very few humans as a percentage of the population knows how to generate effective bots that just makes information viral. So, so this would be an interesting study, how, studies on information virus trends. For example, the virus trend on this presidential candidate, eats children in pizza parlors, or these immigrants, they eat pets or something like that. So another project that we could do is based on if your data is bad, right, your AI is going to be bad. And this was a collaboration we did with NASA. So NASA, using an AI model, a very small one, Roberta, was trained on internet public data. And the responses that the Roberta NASA bot created were in red, and the red answers are all incorrect. And so what we as humans have to do is we had to feed the NASA bot curated information. 120,000 papers that was curated, and after deduplication and processing, this was whittled down from 270,000 papers. And so now, Roberta, this NASA bot agent, is able to provide correct answers in green. So as Jeff said in his first presentation, it doesn't make any sense to assign students term papers or essays, right? You just assume they'll use AI. But, what could we have students do to show us that they've have begun to learn about the material? Why don't we ask them to create the AI models, to fine tune AI models? So just like before, I showed you, here's an AI model with curated data, the green, and here's an AI model that just used public information. So instead of writing an essay or a term paper, have students train AI models. And that way, the students will be forced to say, okay, well, of all the data that's out there, what is it that I should feed the AI model? Of all the data that's out there, how should I fine tune the AI model? And that will cause the students to go back to first principles, first sources, to here's an AI model that could answer World War II questions. Here's an AI model that can answer German 19th literature questions, and it's not just from public data. And the professors can grade them by talking to the AI models, asking the students' AI models, well, how did, for example, an AI model about Abraham Lincoln, how did Abraham Lincoln, feel about, aggressive war generals versus passive war generals? So other university collaborations is work with university departments to create trusted AI models. So just like IBM worked with NASA to create a trusted AI model about climate, the different universities could say, okay, I'm going to create a trusted AI model on like English literature in the 17th century, or this is the trusted AI model on like European encroachment into like Africa or something like that. So there's been papers that, as Jeff said, we assume that everyone, is going to be using AI models, especially students. And it's found that if you're creative already, AI models don't really help you that much in the sense that creative means, you want to write a story, or you want to draw art, or you want to make music. But if you're not as creative, using AI models will write you an essay that will win contests, will, paint things or draw things that you ask it to do. So, as Jeff said, maybe the next step in education is changing our curriculum so that we actually teach or foster creativity. And how can AI help us foster creativity? Those of us who are parents, right, we see when children are born, especially if we have multiple children, that, some of our children, they're born creative just like that, right? Another set of our children, they're creative in different ways. And so, how, as parents, as educators, do we foster that? How do we foster critical thinking? So, as Jeff said, you can't tell whether something was created by a bot or a human. So that means, well, why does that matter? So go back. Okay, so don't tell what entity created it, but at least have the mental ability to say, is this true or not? And even if it's some sentence that you can't say 100% is accurate or not, at least a human student can say, here's the pros or cons, or they could even go one level more, like um, why is some entity putting out this information? What do they want to make me believe? And how does it help? What groups does it help having this information being put out there? So that type of thinking, I think, is would be terrific, for our students to learn growing up, right? Just to question the information that humans encounter. One of the research projects that I've done with multiple universities was predicting Lou Gehrig's progression amongst patients. So you could take anonymized medical data, and then you use machine learning, and this was done on a Linux One system that clusters the patients into groups, and then you predict whether, that patient based on, their genes, their demographics, their clinical data, um, their probability of surviving, 1 year, 2 years, what will be their progression of illness during the different months. And this became a paper that was published as part of the National Institute of Health. And when we ran our model against medical doctors, this was more accurate, right? Because one thing that's good about machine learning, if you feed it curated data, it's machine learning is really good at finding patterns, much better than humans at finding patterns. And so another thing that we could teach students is what to apply machine learning to. What types of problems would it be better, or how could it assist humans? Another university project we did was predicting genetic patterns for arthritis patients that would respond to treatment. And again, we made it a team, so you could have students do this too, right? So we give them anonymized data, based on different genetic data and also clinical data. And based on that, really the challenge was to fine tune your models to see which models would be the most accurate to saying, okay, based on these genes and this clinical data, this patient would respond to treatment better than another, and so this would help with personalized care. And let's see, I think was there a chat? Let me see. Okay. Yes. And, so you could type your questions, or, you could just say, voice your questions as well. So a third project that we did was, using medical images and identify biomarkers of cognitive decline. So the challenge question was predict, cognitive decline, and the information we got was clinical data, genetic data, and also images of brain scans. And again, all these projects they resulted in published papers. So again, some other types of analytics that you could do on Linux One is if your data happens to be in a relational database. We have technology that as each row is added to the relational database, there's a AI model inside that relational database. And it would automatically train a model based on the rows that you're adding, or you could even like signify. You could like determine which rows goes into the models. And then once you do that, you could ask questions of it, similarity or dissimilarity. And what this helps with is you don't have to be a data scientist. It's out of the box AI. And what we've used it for is with financial clients, we've said, okay, here's this row. The database was a table of payments, and this payment was fraudulent. And now you could ask the AI model, show me all payments that are similar to this fraudulent payment. And it will find similar payments. And you, as a data scientist, as a student, or as an educator, you don't have to train that model to find it. We've also used it for wealth management in the sense that here's a mutual fund, an ETF, or a portfolio mix that worked really well for me. Find me another financial asset that has the same types of risk versus reward characteristics. We've used it for anti-money laundering detection. Here's a set of payments that were used for money laundering. Find me similar payments. We work with insurance companies that we've used it for claim frauds. Here's a fraud. Here's a claim for hurricane damage, but it was fraudulent. Find me similar claims. We've used it for patient treatments. Here's a patient that had all these symptoms and responded well to this drug. Find me similar drugs or find me similar patients. We've used it with many retail companies. This product is selling really well to this cohort, to this set of consumers. Find me similar consumers that haven't bought it yet. For ticket analysis, here's a problem that I'm experiencing on my cloud or on my software. Find me similar problems because the resolution might be the same. A lot of companies have used this type of analytics just to look through their data because sometimes there's errors in the data. Addresses are misspelled, names are misspelled. Instead of like Donna Dillenberger, it's D Dillenberger, or like Dillenberger's misspelled. And these AI models, just through similarity, says, okay, D Dillenberger is the same as Donna Dillenberger is the same as Donna, Dylan or something like that. And it helps correct errors in the prompt in your data set, which would make it better. So here's another AI project we could do. So, AI models are like children. And if you don't explicitly tell it to behave in a specific way, it will not. So if you don't actually tell the AI model to be honest and accurate, it will not be. If you don't tell it to be engaging, it would be extremely aggressive and offensive. Um, if For those types of questions that don't have a clear answer, if you don't tell it to provide diverse perspectives, there's no just one answer, it won't do that. You have to tell the AI model to not provide harmful advice, to not be discriminatory or offensive. So we call these AI policies. And we found, interestingly enough, that if you give AI models these types of directives, so the first row is a model where we gave it the directives I showed you in the prior slide. The second row is the same model that doesn't have any directives. And blue means the answer was accurate. Green means the answer was neutral. And red means the answer was just totally wrong. And if you give it these types of directives, it actually makes the AI model more accurate. And so a university project that we could do together is what else should we put in a policy to guide these AI models? And what are benchmarks to measure AI models based on these policies? So right now, the AI model benchmarks is like, accuracy. But, what about benchmarks with respect to, harmful advice, discriminatory advice, offensive answers, and diverse perspectives? So the beyond AI models, the new thing or the trending thing in the AI industry is agents. So agents are able to um, uh, just do actions by themselves, even without prompting of humans, right? So, for example, you could ask an AI model, what's the price for a flight from Newark to Singapore? And the agent would know to go out and call specific deterministic old code, not, that actually has that price. So AI models isn't just large language models. It's just not analytics. It's how do you integrate all the existing infrastructure we have, all the existing applications we have, so that the AI models know to call existing code or existing formulas or do steps to come up with an answer that just a large language model has not been trained with. So we've used it to provide responses for IBM human resources questions, and it's helped a lot of humans. It's helped IBM a lot. So far, this agent has had 9 million interactions, 52% of all of the questions that IBMers have for human resources. It works across countries. Managers, executives use it. Non-managers use it. Humans get resolutions more quickly than if they waited for a human HR person. It does slacks, it reduces problems, and it was able to address 94% of all human HR questions, and the rest go to human resource people. It's interactive, it's integrated with our IBM policies and all the different tools we have. It's personalized, based on the IBMer's role. And we also have provided it to other companies, training it what the other companies want. So Ernst& Young uses it to help them identify candidates to hire, and it gets 125,000 questions per week. Siemens uses it to advise their humans. And I told you about what IBM uses it for. AB, right, uses it to help with to help go through candidates that's applying for jobs. Anthem uses it to address health questions. Walgreens uses it to help consumer questions. Banks use it for career coaching. CESPA uses it for employee questions, and this is just a handful. There's many other projects that we're doing with this. Helping other companies and universities create agents. And a selection of what we're doing with universities with respect to agents. So with York University, we've created an agent that took students that helps students with questions related to university life, career advice, and academic advice. Because all this information is on a university's website, but it's difficult to find. And the assistant uses this information about the student to provide better answers. And it helped over 50,000 students. And the confidence rating from the York University personnel was 84%. And again, when it doesn't know the answer, that's the other thing. You really have to make sure that the AI model you use, is able to provide an answer of I don't know, instead of making one up. And so if there's answers it doesn't know, it tells the student, here's a contact for a York University human person that can help you. With the University of Toronto, uh, we've used it to address questions when students feel stress, financial distress, loneliness, and addiction. And it's not like it addresses how do you solve this problem. Instead, it navigates the students to the right department in the university that will help them. So it's highly responsive. It's tested on more than 100 students, and it's also used by family members and faculty and staff. And so they're pleased with it. And another agent is with Purdue University. And so what we have here is it's used to generate more high quality applicants, to apply to their School of Management. So when you go to their website, with our agent, 1 in 5 students who engaged with our chatbot submitted an application. 52% were accepted from those applications. 20% of the chatbot engagement, applied, and 88% of the conversions were, completely handled by the chatbot. So again, their director of marketing is happy with this agent. And so these are my final slides. So again, just thinking about AI and education. So as humans, what we learn from each other. First, as we're growing up, we learn from our family, and then as we get older, without the internet, right? Through history, we learn from our communities, our villages, our neighbors. And one thing that happened when this occurs is that we get to know the source of the person who's answering our questions, right? We know that if we ask our parents, for certain advice, this is how they're going to answer. They have this context, this adult is extremely conservative. They'll tell me not to risk it. This adult is extremely adventurous. They'll give me advice, somewhere on the side of danger. So as human beings, we learn the context of the entities that's giving us the answers. But then, as we got to technical media, newspapers and radios and TVs, it became very impersonal. We didn't know the source of the information personally. And so that's when we relied on brand trust. We said, okay, well, if this journalist won a Pulitzer Prize, they really investigated it. If it came from a certain newspaper, this newspaper does a better job of investigation than another newspaper. If it came from this newspaper, we know that, this newspaper is extremely liberal. If it came from this type of media, we know that entity is extremely conservative. So still, through the brand, we kind of know like how they were trying to manipulate, us as consumers. And then the government said there were slander laws, and the government itself, right, participates in propaganda in the sense of when they want to convince their populations we need to go to war, but at least we could be aware of that. But now, with anybody putting out the information, not just the government and large publishing and media houses, all the sources are like non-verified, right? Very few people put their personal name on the source. And the source, as I said before, is probably not human, right? It's been generated by a bot. So what do we do then? Uh, they're not known people. People, sources of information with anonymous names or no names, they have a hidden agenda. A lot of it is non-factual. We experienced that from COVID-19, right? When no one knew the answers, when the government didn't know the answers early on, um, we went back actually to our families and communities, right? Okay, are you going to get the vaccine? Are you going to get that vaccine? Are you going to go out without a mask, right? Not until, some facts were provided. So, so what does that mean for us? So for colleges, right? Um, Colleges is a source of curated, trusted data, or at least a source of data. We could have courses where, and it happens, right? As we write term papers, all of our history courses, they always say, go back to the source. What is this source? Why is this source trying to make us think or feel this way, right? And the more we educate the public into thinking that way, the better for all of society. And uh, and then we need to provide guided learning, right? As a professor, we know that okay, it's better to learn about World War II from these sets of books than from these other sets of books. It's better to learn about math or genetics from these papers than these types of papers. So again, as educators, we could provide this type of guided learning and perspectives on what the public is reading. And then the other thing is that now there's certification. If you get a degree from this university, it has this reputation, it has this brand, it means something. I mean, all of us know in computer science, uh, these are the schools you go to if you want top-notch computer science people, right? There's something about their professors and the program and the rigors that they put their students through. They just have better critical thinking in that area. And the same goes with university departments in other areas. If you want, the best English department, the best history department, right? And so what could we do? So now I would say this is my last slide. For AI and education, we could build and teach how to create AI models and we could create AI models to provide information we would be proud of, as humans, in a society. So that's what I'm suggesting. So this is just a summary of everything I talked about. This is my last slide. We could work with you if you want to create AI agents for university operations, anything that right now students or faculty find extremely onerous or tedious to do, right? And where an AI agent could help them. We could help create new seminars and courses. What is the history? And these actually should be a core course, the history and mechanisms of mass viral influencing. You saw, like all of us saw, the whole viral campaign against the Harvard, University of Pennsylvania president and the president of Columbia University. Let's just get them out of here. And that was done by a select group of people who really wanted to get more conservative thinking, right, into education. The whole viral mass disinformation against vaccines and elections, and it's causing us more social division, right? And think about it, the countries that we know that we have evidence that are creating these bots to cause more social division, Russia, Iran, China. Why are they doing this, right? Because it's in their interest if there's more problems within the US. So, just courses on how to get people to think slow as opposed to just react, right? So, a science of journalism, communications from a manipulation point of view. Uh, we could create measurements on how biased a site or a tweet is, or oh, it's not called tweets anymore. Messages. You know, how to investigate data provenances on the web, right? I mean, we know how to do it on paper, but on the web, we could create AI models that goes and say, okay, this information came from this website, which came from this website, until you find like a small set of nodes is the ones that's uh, the origin of the information that the U.S. Marines invaded Ukraine, and that's why Russia had to go and protect them or something. We should teach students, instead of writing term papers, teach students how to fine-tune AI models, right? Because that will force students to think about how they want to train their AI models, what type of information they want to give to their AI models. We could build trusted AI models on scholastic topics, on geology or on linguistics. And we could all, right, work on giving AI models policies, right, to be ethical, the same types of policies you would give students or children growing up. All right. So that's the end of my talk. Any questions?
Question?
Should I just talk?
Yeah.
Donna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I am with George Mason, and my question has to do with the AI agents that you were talking about that you were building with universities. Have you encountered questions about FERPA, which is the law to protect student private information? And so I've been with the university for 10 years. In the last 10 years, I've noticed the student information has been more and more protected. So we used to be able to see student email addresses on the website. Now that's taken away. So I've been talking to some recently some K-12 school division officials. And one thing I hear from them is that even though they know all the benefit of the AI, but the concern of invading student private information, like for example, think about all these agents that you're talking about. It's almost inevitable that you will dive into student personal information, like what major they're in, or what SAT score they had, or things like that. So what is your approach, or have you come up with a kind of a standpoint to address that when you're dealing with university or school stakeholders.
Yeah, the other thing in AI models is this work. There's a term called guardrails, and that's an AI term. And guardrails is policies that you tell your AI model on how to protect data privacy. And so you could give your guardrail. You could give as your guardrail policies such as like HIPAA that protects patient information, or you could just write text, straight text, that this student's information should not be provided to anyone other than the student, and the student has to give permission actually for the AI model to access the data. So just even outside of AI models. Uh, the other thing, as Greg was talking about, Linux One is known for security. It's like the most secure Linux server in the industry, and that's because there's all these access controls that you can configure for it. It's not just like who could access this information, but it's called role-based access control. So even if for example, I'm
Right.
Donna, yeah, yeah. So you could apply role-based access controls to any type of information that the AI model would enforce.
I've seen them.
You've seen yours? Okay, all right, well, good. You already know everything.
Yeah, you just mentioned one.
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. New York City has a law that any systems that's used for HR purposes, like screening resumes or selecting finalists for candidates or who to hire, has to be audited for bias once a year.
Correct.
Just from a conceptual point of view, how would you audit an AI system such as you have? Or how would you recommend auditing it for bias?
Yeah, so there's something that IBM and the industry has put out there. I think we even provided open source. It's called AI governance, and it's a framework that you put your AI model through, and it measures how biased your AI model is. So it measures bias, and it also measures drift detection. That means it's drifting away from accurate answers. And it also measures how much hate and abusive and speech that your AI model has. So there's a whole study in AI governance that AI responsible companies put their AI models through. If you just use something, public AI models, they may not have AI governance. That's not so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh.
So now they.
Any other questions for Don? Yes.
So.
Thank you so much for the presentation. My question is, how do you collaborate with educators to create agents or something like that that would be helpful in class?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, first of all, you talk with Greg and you say, I want to do a joint project with you, and Greg represents like a whole group of people that he pulls in, right? So all these projects that I just talked about, we did with universities, and it was universities reaching out to Greg and Greg's organization or to myself. There's even, if you want to. There's something called the AI Alliance, and you could look at that. Let me just show that to you. So you just search on AI Alliance, right? And this is like an open thing, and universities join. If you want to support, provide AI education, if you want to work on what all your questions were about, create benchmarks to evaluate and ensure safe, trusted AI, tools to measure things like bias, foundation models and data sets. And, companies are part of this, and also universities. It's a whole community, the AI Alliance. So, or, again, talk to Greg and say you want to start up a project with us, and we could like, work create a project on anything I just talked about with Linux One.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh. Oh, you know, in case you don't know about it, there's also something called the Open Mainframe Project. They actually pay interns to work on projects like this on Linux One. So
What is it called again?
The
Uh,
Open Mainframe Project.
yeah, you just go here, Open Mainframe Project, right? Yeah, again, you talk to Greg about it, but you could go here and you could be part of it, right? You could say that, I want I have these interns and, and you could say like, I want to join this project, or again, talk to Greg and we could create new projects, right? And the Open Mainframe Project will pay your interns.
Does that include PhD students like such as?
Yeah.
I love that. So like,
Yeah.
like career, like different.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Okay, well, thank you so, oh, is there another question? Okay, thank you so much, Donna. Just like she said, if anybody's interested, reach out to me or reach out directly to Donna and we can talk more about it, but thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Bye.